Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new around here, my name's Amar and I'm an electric skateboarder and content creator based here in the UK. My goal for this channel is to be a resource for e-skaters through reviews, tutorials and ride videos. So if any of that is of interest to you guys, smash that subscribe button and join me on this journey. In this video, I sit down with a friend of mine, Steve, who purchased a production M5 electric skateboard from Unknown Boards. I discuss everything with him, from specs to customer service to the future or lack thereof of Unknown Boards. Before we jump into the interview though, I'll give you guys a very brief synopsis of who Unknown Boards are and how they got to the stage where their website has now been taken down. Unknown Boards is a brand started by YouTubers Chris and Ricky from Average eSkate Reviews. If you're not familiar with their channel, it's a UK-based e-skate reviews and podcasting channel, and they've managed to make some really high-quality e-skate videos in the past which have boosted their popularity. With this popularity came a substantial viewership and audience. Now, whilst making reviews of boards which the pair had been sent, Ricky became tired of underpowered and underperforming consumer electric skateboards. So he ventured into the world of DIY and built his own insanely powerful 7,000 watt board, and of course made a YouTube video about it. Seeing this, a few of their subscribers seemed really keen on getting their hands on a similar powerful board, and thus Unknown Boards was born. Ricky and Chris set up this brand to make hybrid DIY 2-in-1 DKP bamboo boards for your average e-skate consumer, and it seems that the sales came flooding in. The M5 board was competitively priced, appeared to be relatively well made, and at the time the specs did seem quite decent. Not long after launching sales though, they were forced to delay shipment of the boards because of missing parts, and what I believe were missing payments which were being held by Shopify. Some customers did eventually start receiving their boards, but from what I've read online, the communication process in this few months where boards were being delivered left a lot to be desired. Before long, the eSkate community did what the eSkate community does, and posts started emerging online warning people to stay far away from Unknown Boards. Some people were just fed up of waiting, others were demanding refunds, and some were even contacting their credit card companies and PayPal to demand chargebacks. Needless to say, this put a huge dent in the brand's reputation and probably put a huge dent in their pocket too. And fast forward to today, it seems that few, if any, people can get through to Chris or Ricky about Unknown Boards, and the website has also been taken down. So with that brief overview out the way, let's now get into the full review of their flagship M5 electric skateboard and Steve's experiences as an Unknown Boards customer. Timestamps are down in the description in case you need them, and as always, thank you so much to Nobleman Tech for being our channel sponsors. Check out their safety gear using the link in the description. So guys, I'm here with Steve Banton and he's come down all the way from Cheshire just to make this video with me, so I really appreciate it, Steve.
Yeah, mate. Pleasure.
So yeah, you've bought this Unknown Boards M5. First of all, do you want to discuss how you got into eSkate, what your first board was, and then what led up to you purchasing this board?
Yeah, definitely. So I played the eSkate about 12-18 months ago. I've been snowboarding for quite a few years, and I wanted to do something out of the snowboarding season that would allow me to still get out there and feel like I've got that carve, that movability. Yeah. So I originally started off with an eBay purchase of a Team G H5.
H5, yeah.
Hub-driven motors, really nice learner board. Really quite stiff, so when you were doing turns you felt quite safe at the high speed it would go. And then a little unfortunate accident where I hit a bit of patch of mud, and then that caused me to have a little bit of a spill, broke a wrist. Oh wow. So I thought, I'm going to get something a bit more grunt, something with a bit more what I felt would be stable, make me feel safer. So I've been following the guys at Unknown Boards for a little while.
Is that from Average eSkate Reviews from their channel?
Yeah, exactly. So Average eSkate. So I've been following Ricky and Chris, watching the reviews that they were doing, liked what they were doing, and then saw that Ricky and Chris were working on a board themselves. Yeah. So I followed that quite sort of closely, because at the time I was thinking about different brands of boards that I liked. I liked the Entre. I had Evolve very far in the back of my mind. And then I saw this board Evolve. I got hold of Ricky, and then all of a sudden they had a brand. It was unknownboards.com.
Quite a nice name for a brand, Unknown Boards.
Yeah.
Fills you with confidence.
Exactly. Yeah, it was coming from these two guys. I had a real passion for eSkate. There's no doubt about that. So I liked the spec of the boards. They'd obviously kind of sort of tried to compare it against some of the other boards, more premium boards in that bracket. Yeah. The price bracket was okay. I liked the idea that they were a UK startup. I liked the fact that they were trying to sort of come into the market with a really premium, what they say to be a premium board.
Apart from Unknown Boards at that time, I think No, Slick Revolution, I think by that time had already been like on their dying days, and now Slick Revolution are no more. I think Fat Daddy bought Slick Revolution, but they don't seem to be doing anything with that brand. And that was the only other like UK-based e-skate brand. So it was really refreshing, and it was a breath of fresh air to see another UK-based e-skate brand. But unfortunately, it's come to what we're going to discuss later. But yeah, getting back to the board. Yeah. So, what was your sort of purchasing experience like? And so you bought the board. Did you get like a confirmation email? What did you? When did you get the tracking number and all that sort of stuff?
See, exactly. It was actually quite slick. So I bought direct through their website, and I bought at the sort of intro price when they were trying to get the first 10-15 units out.
Yeah.
And it was literally a Shopify-based purchase.
How much did you pay?
1399.
Right. Nice. And that's just for the AT, not the 2-in-1.
That's right, just for the AT. So I had a couple of different extras. I put on the bash guards at the back.
Got it.
And I asked them specifically for a VX3 remote, Flipski VX3. So I pushed it up a little bit, but for the base price of the board, for the just the all-terrain, it was 1399.
Yeah.
And so the buying experience was good. Ricky got hold of me straight after and said, thanks for doing this. It's hopefully going to be a really good board. Have to admit, there was a little bit of a delay in receiving the board. I ordered it in April and didn't get it until I think it was late July.
Okay, about 3 months-ish. Yeah.
Yes, and I think a lot of that you have to give them a bit of credit. I think there was trouble getting hold of certain elements, certain parts.
Yeah, I know for a fact that they had trouble sourcing some parts, so there's not much they can do about that. I also know that I'm not taking either side here, but just to share the facts, I know that they had some issues with actually getting the funds that people were paying into their bank account. They had some issues with Shopify because they were a new business, basically. So I think they had to do all sorts of verification checks with banks and with Shopify and with PayPal and stuff, just to get the payments that people were actually paying into their accounts and actually get the boards out. I think there were all thousands, literally. Might have been actually dozen thousands, something like that. But yeah, so that sort of pushed the delivery time back. So you waited around 3 months. Let's now fast forward a bit to you've got the board.
Yeah.
You've unboxed it. How was the whole unboxing thing like? Did it come in a box? How did all that work?
It came in a box, but It was just a box. It wasn't the usual sort of box in a box that you like to see.
Yeah.
So it was one box filled with like polystyrene noodles, if you would.
Yeah.
And yeah, it came that there was absolutely no issue with the board as it was packaged, but it wasn't the slickest packaging. There was no logos on any of the packaging, nothing like that.
Yeah.
And again, I think this was, unknown boards in their very sort of early inception of being able to send out the first, because this was the first wave of the boards that they sent out.
So like one of the first 10 unknown boards out there, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there was, definitely some little things they could improve. But yeah, I mean, it turned up, the box was fine, there was no damage to the board, which was the most important thing.
What was your first impressions of the board?
I loved it.
Whilst riding it. So you've had your first ride, what were your first impressions?
I loved the carvability compared to the H5, of course, with it being a double kingpin truck
DKB
board.
trucks, yeah.
That's right. So I really enjoyed the manoeuvrability. I was a little bit taken aback by the torque of the motors, which again, I think is just my inexperience on a dual motor board. Very powerful, and if you weren't careful, this thing would throw you off.
I've ridden not the production board, but I've ridden one of the pre-production units that was actually Ricky's own board, and not own board as in the brand, his own his own board, and yeah, the power was just insane. It reminded me of a DIY board, because I've got some friends here in Birmingham that ride DIY boards. I've been lucky enough to try their boards, and it just wants to throw you off if you're not careful. Not in a bad way, but it's just that powerful, and it's really a beast to be tamed. So that's the amount of power that this board has. So you can't really, I think one thing we can't critique this board for is its performance. So that was the torque and acceleration that you can get out of the board with these beefy motors, but let's now talk about the range and the top speed. So the specs are a bit hard to come by, but online I've managed to find that this board is meant to reach 32 miles per hour, and in terms of range it should get to 16 to 20 miles of range. So what's been your sort of experience as a rider? Have you managed to get near that, or
for me,
or do you think it's realistic?
I think, well, I'm not the kind of rider that's all about speed. I wanted something that was manoeuvrable and to have the speed if I wanted it.
Yeah.
So I've probably topped out at the minute at around 15, 16 mile an hour and been more than happy, but I could not see a problem with it getting up to what they're saying, 30, 31, 32.
The battery is, you said 12S4P?
12S4P, yeah.
And on the website, I mean, someone copied and pasted the website and put it on some forum somewhere, because you can't actually get this stuff off the website anymore. But they said it was Samsung 30Q cells, although I think you heard that they've changed to Molicel cells.
Yeah, so
right?
Talking to one of the guys I've read it, he said, oh no, they put Molicels in. Don't know which particular type of Molicel have gone into it. So again, I don't want to say something that isn't 100% true. But yeah, so they said they put Molicels in, again, quality component, which I quite like.
Yeah, 12S 4P size battery. It's not huge. There are bigger batteries, especially these days with onboard Zeus, Meepo Hurricane, stuff like that. But equally, it's not a tiny battery, and you'll definitely get, a good ride in it. I mean, you got, 10 miles, and then you're like 50% through?
Yeah, just over 50% at 10 miles.
Conservative riding.
Yeah.
So I guess really fast riding, a rider your weight. How much do you weigh?
I'm about 85, 86.
Yeah, that's cool. So I guess like 11, 12, 13 miles, something like that.
Yeah.
Fast riding. Let's talk a little bit about the board itself. You tighten the base plate, right?
Yeah.
And what happened there?
So I was literally tightening the base plate. So because when I looked at it, I tried to tighten this from the top, realised the whole sort of base plate was a bit loose and you could see it actually moving.
Yeah.
So I tightened the base plate and it was just spinning. So I took a pair of pliers and I held onto the bolt underneath, used an Allen key to tighten from the top. And what I've noticed is the actual bolt underneath is cutting into the board.
Into the bamboo.
So maybe it needs like a little washer or something just to stop that from happening, spread that load on a bigger area. But yeah, so I can literally see now where there's a bit of an indent underneath that I'm going to have to be really careful with, because if I either push the board too hard or maybe hit a little pothole or a bump, that if there is a crack anywhere within the laminates of the bamboo, that's just going to get worse. And overall, will the screws from the base plate come through the bamboo, and then where am I going to be?
You destroy the integrity of the bamboo, and then have a very high speed probably crash.
Yeah.
The trucks will come off. What other sort of issues have you had? So you mentioned something about the what do you call them? The bushings. You switched those out.
I mean, I can't really call that an issue, I guess. I mean, they were the stock bushings that came with the board.
Right.
And for me, they weren't quite right. I'm a little bit heavier rider, so I reached out to a couple of people on different forums, say, hey, what's the best combination? I want to still have really nice, be able to carve in and cruise in.
Yeah.
But I also want a bit of stability. With it being double kingpin truck board, obviously the stability is always going to be in question. I have taken one pretty serious spill on it and lost a bit of skin, but that comes part of the course. But yeah, so I changed.
Part of the fun, really.
That's it. So I managed to get a few more different bushings. I went for a cone and barrel combination, quite high on the durometer.
Yeah. So it's just a bit more stable.
Yeah, because that's what I wanted. For me, I broke my wrist in March on my H5, so I wanted something that felt a bit more stable. And as I say, speed wasn't really the primary driver for me buying this board. I wanted something I could carve really nicely on and just get that sort of snowboarding feeling that I'm used to.
Yeah.
So I changed out the bushings. And they've been really good ever since. I could still probably do a little bit more to take a bit of slack out and give myself a bit more carve, but that'll come with confidence, and as I build my confidence on this board.
Yeah.
Other bits of quality wise, I mean, like I say, there's not really much. So all the screws that hold the battery enclosure were all pretty good. There was no loose screws, which you do see on some boards that come from other people's manufacturers.
I'm guessing there's a bit of Loctite in them, or I don't know.
There's actually not. No, there's no Loctite that I've seen on the enclosure screws. So I've taken out the screws a couple of times and looked in the enclosure, because I've done a couple of other things to the board.
Yeah.
I've put in a Bluetooth module that didn't come standard, so that I could connect that to a phone, and it should be said that you can't connect it to an Apple phone. It has to be through an Android.
You've just triggered something in my head now. So a big thing which Chris and Ricky would rave on about was that you could really customize this board, and you can go into the app and dial it in to get your perfect ride out of it, essentially. Tune how fast each gear is and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So is there a VESC in here, or is it some of the ESC? I'm not sure.
No, it's VESC.
It's VESC. Okay,
yeah.
So it's VESC based. Sorry, Tramper. I don't mean to. But yeah, so you went into the app. You went into the app. I don't know what I'm saying there. What's been your experience with tuning this board and customizing it in the app? Was it smooth sailing, or did you encounter any issues with that? Or
again, like most of these learning things, I had to get onto the VESC website, download not just the app for my phone but also for my laptop too, connect it via the USB-C port which is on the VESC, and then start looking at all the settings. And if you're not an overly technical person, which I'm not really, it can be quite over-facing, because it's not sort of a simple thing to say, okay, I want my speed curve to be like this.
Yeah.
You've got to know your numbers. So I've been able to speak to, again, a couple of guys off Reddit who've taken me through it, viewed your videos that have taken me through it.
Reddit is really nice for that stuff, isn't it?
Yeah,
you get
it's really support community, which is dead nice.
Well-informed people. Yeah.
So through that, I've been able to get the board to again how I want it to be. And on the VESC app, you can set up profiles. So if you're looking for a speedier profile, you can just switch between the two. I haven't done that bit yet.
Yeah.
It's taken me a little while to get the Bluetooth module where I wanted it to be. But overall, I say, it is customizable. You can do things with it. It is programmable, as you'd expect from a VESC type ESC. But again, you need to know what you're doing, because otherwise, you could easily mess something up with the VESC and destroy that part of the board.
Or kill yourself whilst you're riding.
That as well, yeah.
But yeah, let's go on to talk about the deck. How's the deck? The deck does look really, really good. And when I was trying Ricky's board, it did feel really nice as well. You've got this sort of W concave, I can see, coming across. You've got obviously the drop down at the front and the back, and that should really help to swallow your feet in and lock your feet in.
Yeah.
It does look really good, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it has that double, like you said, that double concave running right through it with the drop down front and back, so you are able to lock your feet in quite nicely. For me, I have my stance quite wide apart, so my feet are sort of right on the very front, and that again is for me a stability thing, because I'm putting a lot more weight on my front foot to get weight over the front of the board, so I don't get any of the death wobbles that I've had in the past. But yeah, the board itself, your feet do feel nicely firm and locked in, but not overly so.
How's the Griptape?
It's really nice. I don't know whose Griptape it is. Apparently,
they said it's UK sourced, so that was a nice thing to hear. But
I don't know how long it'll last as a Griptape. Depends on how much I use it, I guess. But I mean, I can already feel it's not as. I don't think it's as grippy as it was when I first got it.
Yeah, it does look good, to be fair.
But it's quite cushioned. Again, I mean, things like Dope Grip, I think might look nice on this board. But I think it's fairly decent. I haven't got anything to compare it against, really, as opposed on this kind of style of board.
Tyres. So these tyres look. They look similar to the tyres that you'd get on an Evolve, the 7-inch tyres, but they look more similar to something you see on a Wowgo 82. So this sort of tyre tread. And one thing we picked up on earlier, I think, was that some of the tyres might be put on the wrong way around. So we could tell that from the tyre tread. Not a huge deal, I guess. You just take it off the hub and fix that. But talking of the hubs, they look like they're made of metal.
They are,
aluminum.
Yeah. So again, a bit of a quality part, which was nice to see.
Yeah, so you get a bit of both, really. So you get some parts of the board that are missing washers, where the screw will go into the deck, and then you get the other end, I guess, of good quality, where you get quality components like aluminum washers. But yeah, bash guard,
that was additional extra.
How much does that cost?
I think it was around 50-60 quid, to be honest. So not much, and for me it was about, and I wanted to protect the motors. It was a bit of a no-brainer, having something that would stop me from damaging a very integral part of the board.
Yeah, I really like the look of these motors. They're not very, how can I say, wide, but they're very thick and fat.
Yeah.
And no complaints at all about the power on this board. It will throw you off if you're not careful. One big advantage of having a board like this is it is incredibly customizable, because it is essentially a DIY board, and especially having the Vesk there. So you've got all sorts of remote options. You're not limited. A lot of other brands, like, for example, I don't know, or Wowgo or something, you're limited in terms of the remote that you can actually use. But with the motor controller that this board has, you're very open in choosing whatever remote you have. So you've actually opted for the VX3, the FlipSky VX3.
Yeah.
How has that remote been for you?
I really like it. For me, it's, I mean, you could say, if anything, it's a little on the large side, but for me it's quite nice because it's got that dual trigger functionality. You've got your acceleration and your brake. You turn it on.
A bit like the Evolve R2, right?
And that's kind of where I liked it. I do like the Evolve remote. I think it's a really cool looking piece of kit, but obviously you know how fragile it is, so it would never work with this board regardless. But
so if you drop this remote, it's not going to shatter instantly like all the Evolve remotes?
So there's no battle scars on this, but this remote actually was built, I think, for like waterboarding. It's like a waterboarding sort of board remote. So it's fully waterproof as well, which is really nice.
What that means is that there's no charge ports on it whatsoever, and you have to rely on this pad to charge it.
Exactly. So it's wireless remote, which is quite nice.
Do you like that or not?
I do, because I mean, all it takes is it says USB, so micro USB. So literally, it's just going to go in, sit on top, it lights up, and it charges.
Happy days.
No different to having an actual port on the remote to charge it, as long as you remember to take it with you. I ordered the standard board that came with the VX1, which is a nice remote, standard across a lot of boards. But for me, I wanted something that had a bit more of a graphical display, so I said to Ricky, how much would it cost to add the VX3, the FlipSky VX3? So he got me a price. I think that price really is about 140, 150 quid. So I probably could have picked it up myself had I been more experienced for a lot cheaper. Mm-hmm. But to be fair to Ricky, the board was delayed because they couldn't get the VX3 here quick enough. So what he did, he sent me out the VX1 as standard with the board. He said, listen, have this free of charge just to get you going, so you can have a play around with the board, and then when the VX3 comes in, I'll get it over to you. And I can't knock him for that. That was really nice.
That's a really sound thing to do. That's really nice.
Yeah.
You also had, I guess, a similar experience with the charger. So you ordered the board with a standard charger.
Yeah.
But you've got the fast charger here, which, by the way, is really fast. I'll put on the screen now how long fast charge is, just because I can't remember the top of my head. But you got this for free?
Yes, that just came as standard, which I wasn't expecting, so it was really nice to see that. And I can get full charge in about an hour and a half.
Oh, wow.
So it's, it's good. I mean, that's not draining the battery right down to 0%.
Yeah.
So, it probably would take a bit longer to get it right up.
They did used to mention this in their videos, that why have an enormous battery when you can just have a smaller battery, keep the board feeling better to ride, keep it lighter and everything, and then just have a fast charger to get a full charge in something like an hour and a half. Yeah, and you're out there. Because I definitely agree with them when they say that you're not often riding for like 20, 30, 40 miles. I've got the Flux just sitting there on the floor, which if I wanted to would take me riding all day, but it's very, very rare. Like even now, I haven't ridden past like 20 miles on the Flux. I still need to do the range test. You're always stopping off at a coffee shop or stopping off at home, so it makes sense to have a smaller battery and a fast charger, and whilst you're sitting somewhere, just charge up, ready for your next ride. Cool. So I know that you had a couple of issues with your M5.
Yeah.
Which is quite concerning, because I think as of the moment, unknown boards is no more. If you went to their website, you could not, you couldn't see anything on the website. I think the website's actually offline. You can't get in touch with Ricky or Chris. Don't think they're responding to messages, which is a little bit concerning for current M5 owners. And of course, I mean, you paid what, 1,399.
Yeah.
Part of that was, of course, customer service and UK-based customer service, which a lot of people, especially riders in the UK, would actually be happy to charge to pay a premium for. So customer service, that's, I think, really fundamentally important. You've had a couple of issues with this board. What issues were they, and did you manage to get them resolved with Ricky, or what was the sort of customer service experience like with unknown boards?
So at the beginning, it was quite good. I managed to get hold of Ricky via through Instagram, or I even got his number on WhatsApp, and we had a couple of calls together. So he was quite open to let me ring him on a Sunday afternoon, and we had a couple of FaceTime calls. So
that's nice.
So when I installed the upgraded VX3 remote, he talked me through where all of the ports on the vest could go into to make sure that I could get it all connected up. But then I had a couple of issues, like the remote not showing the battery percentage of the board. So asking about it, and he said, "Oh, you're going to need this cable, that cable." And I kept asking him, well, which cable do I need and how do I get it? And his communication started to go really quiet, to a point where I just couldn't get hold of him anymore at all.
Yeah, wow.
So
I think he probably got flooded with these sorts of messages from all sorts of M5 owners, because I saw in the Facebook groups as well, there was other people that were really trying to get hold of Ricky.
Yeah.
Some people quite angry as well. They were trying to find out where he lived, which is not the way to go about it. If that's what you're planning to do, that's definitely not the way. I also know some people that have been so frustrated that they've got to the extent of doing like chargebacks on their credit cards and going to PayPal and stuff, which, to be fair, is quite understandable. I mean, if you've paid for a product and you're not getting that customer service, or some people have actually, I think, I'm probably not the best person to ask about this. I'm just looking at this from an outsider perspective, but some people, I think, have paid for the board and not actually received the product months later, which they've been really concerned about and done chargebacks for. But yeah, so the customer service sort of started off really good, and then you said it sort of got slower, and then it kind of stopped. I guess that's just because they got overwhelmed, and I guess this goes to show that I think that they sort of started running before they could walk on boards. They should have maybe started off just selling 10 pre-production units, seen how they went and gone from there, because there was definitely interest from their YouTube channel audience. I mean, they've got a really, really great YouTube channel, to be fair. I featured them on this very channel when I saw them at the Evolve shop in London, I think last year, and they do seem to be like a sound bunch of guys, but I think they're just, especially Ricky. I've had the pleasure of meeting Ricky, spending a few hours with him, and you can tell that he's like a really hard-working guy. He really puts passion into building the boards. I've seen him like literally assemble one of these boards, and he does really take it seriously. But I think started running before they could walk, just took things way too quickly.
What they should have done, they should have perhaps, like you say, should have produced maybe 10 in the first batch of production boards, reinvested that money that they took from those 10 back into the business, took on the feedback of any little quality issues that anyone had, instead of just taking on more and more orders through the website and not be able to fulfill them. Maybe take on the first 10, see how they went, and then give those realistic timelines of when those boards could be built and delivered.
Personally, I think that the majority of the problems which unknown boards have come by are because they've essentially grown too quickly. Would you agree with that assessment?
I would, absolutely, yeah. Like I say, I mean, they've obviously had so much interest in the board because of their own reputations in the market for being reviewers. They've seen the stuff that Ricky was doing, building the board, and I think they just created a real big hype around the Unknown Board brand and what it could bring to the market. But doing that, obviously they've taken on probably a bit more than they could have chewed off at that time, and it's come back, and it's unfortunately had an adverse effect on the business.
And in turn, an adverse effect on riders and consumers and people like you that have actually bought the board and now can't rely on the customer service which they paid for.
Yeah, I mean, for me, one of the big things was having that local customer service from a UK brand. You know, so many e-skaters start off by buying boards that come from, you know, far away parts of the world, you know, Far East and further. So it was really nice to think I could pick up the phone to somebody local, and if I needed to get the board to them quickly for a repair, I could do that. And now, you know, people like myself have been sort of a little bit left out in the cold, because if I want this board repaired now, I've either got to try and seek out somebody that's got the experience with e-boards that can help me, or I'm kind of stuck. It's all going to be looking at YouTube videos and figuring out, can I do it myself?
Yeah, so on this point, I think probably a lot of guys that own these boards, the M5, are going to be watching this video. This is going to be like the only video, as far as I know, this is going to be the only video on YouTube about the M5 that is not from Chris and Ricky. So if you M5 owners out there are facing issues or anything, I know that you've had help from, you might not remember his name, but I'll put him in the description below.
I'll get his name for you. Sure.
Yeah, so probably reach out to him. And it is a kind of rubbish situation to be in, but I think just know that it's not the end of the world. Everything on this board is fixable. I mean, it's all just like small components, isn't it? And they all just come together. So I'm sure you can get support from other, you know, more experienced DIY members of the eSkate community.
Yeah, so the guy that I spoke to was called Benny.
Benny, you remember his name?
From Nexus Boards.
Nexus
So
Board.
he give you support via phone. He did for me, and it's also got a website where you can buy components. So whether it's bearings, whether it's electrical components, so he's probably going to be quite a good place for M5 owners to go to. And he had direct conversations with Ricky and Chris. He was actually even offering to help them build the batteries and what have you. So he's going to have quite an in-depth knowledge of the M5.
I'm guessing he's a UK brand as well, right?
Yeah, he's a UK business. So yeah, I'll get his full name, because I first came across him on Reddit. I reached out and said, does anyone know how to do this? And he said, give me a call and I'll help you out. And he did. Within 15 minutes, problems were sorted, and you know, he's just a really, really top guy. Yeah,
perfect. I think it's a big shame what's happened to unknown boards, because this style of board, bamboo, 2-in-1, AT Street, DKP boards, unless you're going to Evolve, outside of Evolve, there's not many of this style of board out there. Outside of this, I think there's the Onboard AT and then the Walgo AT2 as well. And those boards, although they're quite good boards, I have recently reviewed the Walgo AT2, but one of my criticisms of that board was that it's a little bit underwhelming, especially if you're on the heavier side. And even Dave, actually, when he was riding, he's on the lighter side and he found it a bit underwhelming, although he's come from a Tramper and a Flux, so he would, you know, he's used to a lot more power. But yeah, this board, without a doubt, is massively more powerful than those boards, and even more powerful than the GTR. I can't speak for the Hadian. I'd love to say that it's more powerful. Actually, I will say it's more powerful because I don't like Evolve. But yeah, on a serious note, I can't say it's more powerful than the Hadian, the bamboo Hadian yet. But outside of Evolve, there's not many options in terms of bamboo DKP 2-in-1 boards. So it's a real big shame that this has happened to unknown boards. We really, really wanted to support, a UK brand. Like I said before, there's not many of them out there. There's Slick Revolution, they're done now. There was this brand and this is done now. There's not really anything else. There are, of course, like parts suppliers. There's Apex as well.
Yeah, of course, they look really cool.
They're really cool, but they're not like, they're more into the mountain board side of things than the eSkate. I mean, it is technically eSkate as well, isn't it? But and I'm not sure how much they're charging.
No, I know that they haven't got a large stock either, so they're selling a batch of boards, which is realistic. I don't know what they're charging for.
That is the way to do it, though. Yeah. The way Apex are doing it, which is don't bite off more than you can chew. Start off easy, sell 5-10 boards from the outset, see how you go from there, provide that customer service, and slowly grow from there, rather than taking in unlimited orders and essentially being overwhelmed. Because Ricky was essentially doing all the building, and he's got 2 other jobs on the side, and this was like a third, like, sort of side hustle.
See, it was quite obvious that Ricky was the driver behind it,
and Chris was the website guy and all the and he did all the admin and stuff, I think.
And I think when Chris was still the ambassador for the Evolve brand in the UK, he was thinking of distancing himself from unknown boards because he wanted people to still see him and still obviously get those revenues that he was getting from Evolve. But as that relationship deteriorated, obviously he's become more involved in helping Ricky build the boards, do the marketing, do the content for the boards. And I don't know, I mean, I've never met Chris, I can't say anything about him, but perhaps Ricky should have maybe just steered it a little bit more for himself and not tried to involve Chris, because that's just added that layer of complication.
Fair enough. That's definitely going to stir a bit of stuff on Reddit and the comment section.
But the thing is, like, where are they now? Like, is the hockey channel still getting? I mean, are they starting to receive more and more stuff from people that were buying unknown or were looking to buy unknown boards? You know, where are Chris and Ricky? That's one of my questions, because there's nothing on Average eSkate. So is that channel completely gone? Obviously,
I doubt the channel's gone. Thing is, like, as a creator myself, I know that you get rifts and life just gets in the way sometimes. You have to take a month or 2 month break. So in terms of the channel, I know that's staying. Unknown boards is probably not coming back, unfortunately.
No.
But yeah, I mean, I've heard this view before that Steve's sharing, that Ricky should have probably taken it for himself and, you know, just gone from there. And you know, maybe downscaled the business a bit and just made it more of a boutique sort of thing. I know he really wanted to see these Unknown board M5s as boutique boards. I would personally categorize them more as DIY sort of hybrid boards.
Yeah.
But yeah, anything else? So all in, considering everything we've discussed, rate this board out of 10. Customer service experience, riding experience, everything.
As an overall, I'd probably give it, being honest, maybe a 6.5.
Okay.
If I was to break that out into sort of separate categories, for the board itself and performance, it's got to be an 8, 8.5.
Okay.
Customer service is on the lower end because of the problems that I've personally faced. Quality of the board, parts used, again, I can't complain about any part of it. And there's a couple of little bits of quality that I think we'll highlight a bit later on that may have improved if the brand had stayed around longer. But you know, overall, I think the way the board looks is very sellable. I think the way the board performs, if you've got the confidence to push it to its absolute limits, I think you're going to get a really high-performing, really competitive board in this market. So overall, I'd say, you know, I can't give a high score as a total, but break it out into separate different categories, I do think it rates quite highly in some over others.
Yeah, I mean, this is just because I'm fascinated in it. It's not like you guys watching this can go out there and buy an Unknown board. This is like finished as far as I can see. I very much doubt they can make a comeback from this, unfortunately. But yeah, I really would have liked to see Unknown board succeed. Chris and Ricky, I've been following it from a long time ago, from when they first announced it. I've even been to try out the board. I was really impressed with the pre-production unit. But yeah, anything else you want to share about this board?
No, do you know what? I'm just really gutted that the company itself has gone the way that it's gone, because I think this being their first foray into a production board, of course they were going to learn a lot from it, and I think there was so much opportunity for them to enter the market in the UK, especially where nobody else had that market share. They were going to have that. It would have been a really nice place to have been one of the first people to have this board and see the brand grow.
Yeah.
So it's really sad that, you know, what's happened has happened. More importantly, I hope that Ricky as well. I hope that he's not taken on too much personal loss and it's caused him too much personal anguish about it.
Definitely echo that. Ricky is an absolutely fantastic guy.
Yeah, exactly. And I just think, you know, if he just altered his business model ever so slightly, things would have worked out a bit differently for him. But the board itself, loving riding it. I think it's got a great board. I think it's got a great lot of features. Again, I'm not taking it to its full potential, and that'll come with confidence. But overall, you know, fair play, Ricky and Chris. You've created a fantastic board that I hope to ride for a long time.
Yeah, and it's a shame that chapter is over. But thank you so much for Steve for driving down here. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
And yeah, that will do it for this one, guys. Like and subscribe for more, and I'll catch you on the next one.
Cheers.
Oh, it's Vest. Okay, so it's Vest based. Sorry, Tramper. You know, I don't mean to. So I personally.
You couldn't write it, could you?
I'll put this in the bloopers.
Steve, for me, my feet are quite wide apart.
It's a Big Ben or something.
Lizzie's just one though, because it's 1 o'clock.
Yeah.